Hi there, Russ Laggan, VP of Growth for eXp Realty, and today I am actually at a casino broadcasting live for you guys, and today I've got an amazing show for you. I am standing in casino in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and recording to you guys live, and if I take my camera and I rotate my camera down this way, if you go all the way down that end of the alleyway, that's Leo Pareja actually recording live for an event in Dallas where he's actually broadcasting to Dallas. So we're trying to get our tech savvy on this week and making sure we're bringing you guys the best show. We're bringing it from location. Now you may say, Russ, you don't have a tie on. You're right. I have a bow tie on, which is something I rarely do, but I do also have a tuxedo because today we're at the Fort Lauderdale Rally and it is an Oscars themed festival. So I figured what better could you do when we're doing Oscars than wear a tuxedo for the event. So we're kicking it off live here. Got a couple hundred agents in Fort Lauderdale having a great time. So with that today, let's start off with Market Minute. I want to start off with Market Minute today. And one of the things that Leah was just talking about on stage was the market is a little bit weird. And particularly here in Fort Lauderdale, the supply of homes in Fort Lauderdale is actually at a 9.8 month supply of homes. I'm going to be on stage a little bit later and talking about some of the advantages that we have when a market's doing that. There are opportunities every time in every market, whether the market's going up or the market's going down, there are opportunities because people need to do something. People always will be getting married. They'll always be getting divorced. There's always going to be people being born and dying. So with that being said, there's always going to be somebody that needs to do something in real estate, and we got to get really good at telling the story. So from a national level, it's not as bad as Fort Lauderdale, thank God. But check this out on this slide that we're going to pop up here. From a national level, we're sitting at about a 4-month supply of homes. And you guys might say, well, but Russ, it used to be 3.5. It used to be 2. By the way, Detroit, Michigan, 2.3. I was on stage with them on Tuesday, and we're at a 2.3 for a lot of the Detroit metro area, and particularly the area where I live. They were down as low as 1.9 in August last year. So it's really important that you understand the national stats don't necessarily reflect what's going on local. And even on a national level, 4-month supply of homes still means it's a seller's market, which means sellers still have a choice. If you get your house on the market and price it right, they're still getting good, solid offers. By the way, additionally, 21% of sales nationally, 21% of them actually went for over asking price still last month. So when you're looking at an overall market, we're still tracking for around 4.02 million homes sold this year. Now that actually dropped down quite a bit from last month's projections. So what you got to understand is that knowing what's going on in your specific market is key for you to be able to tell the story and make sure people know what's going on so that they can make good decisions. So if you're in a market with a 9.8 month supply of homes, guess what? You're going to want to make sure you're doing a price that is priced below the other properties, because that means there's less sales, less buyers in the market, which means price is going to be absolutely paramount. You've got to price a house right. So if you haven't had built that skill set, it's time to learn that skill set. So there you go, market update for this month right now. And with that being said, let's kick it over to KGCI Radio with Ian Wheatley. Ian Wheatley, take it away, brother.
Hey, thanks for popping by Big Agent Meeting. Don't forget, you can tune into the Big Agent Meeting each week right here on KGCI Real Estate On Air. Hey, calling out to all your real estate investors, tune into our Wealth Wednesdays because this is your place each week on KGCI Real Estate On Air, where we're going to be giving you the strategies and the tactics that real estate investors and agents are using each week to grow wealth beyond the next commission check. And coming up right after today's Big Agent Meeting, we have our weekly Friday focus. This week, we are plugging into the top tools for real estate agent marketing because let's be real, you're wasting time on content and missing the follow-up that actually builds your pipeline. So to help with all of that, we've got Carrie Sauvé, real estate's AI queen, joining us to kick it all off, who will be sharing how to plug AI into your system so it feels human and saves you 10 plus hours a week. We'll also be finding out what other tools that top producing agents and teams are using. So if you're looking for no to low cost tools to enhance your real estate marketing efforts, this week's Friday focus is a cannot miss.
But Ian, what if I do miss it? How could I possibly catch up?
Am I getting a little too cute? My apologies. That's going to be easy. Mobile apps and podcasts. We publish all of our Friday Focus episodes the same day that they air. So scan this QR code over here and either download our always free KGCI Real Estate On Air mobile app for iPhone and Android, or hit the buttons to subscribe to the podcast channels on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart. And failing that, you can just Google KGCI Real Estate On Air.
All right, there you go. Ian Wheatley, thank you very much. KGCI Radio, of course, always bringing value, always bringing something to the table that you can take and put into your business right now. Being connected is everything, and KGCI Radio helps keep you connected. So thank you very much for that, Ian Wheatley. Now, next up, the one and only Holly Mabery, talking about what's going on in brokerage operations update. Take it away, Holly Mabery.
Well, hi, everybody. I am so excited because not only have we been on the road with all the regional rallies, and we're not even done yet. That's what's so exciting. But we also have been hearing from many of you about what's going on with boots on the ground and things that you're needing from us. And so we wanted to make sure we were extremely responsive, and we wanted to bring you something to help you as you're working with clients real time in negotiations and things like that. How would it work if you amend your compensation? Now, these are conversations that we've been having for a while. With the buyer-broker agreements, we know that we want to establish that fee up front. We should never probably amend up. You want to establish your full fee up front. Like, are you getting a bonus? All of those types of things, and have it in a definitive term, because that's part of the NAR settlement. Now, we do recognize sometimes you go and the buyer says, all right, I agree to this amount, but let's see what the seller will pay. And you make that offer to the seller, and the seller comes back and says, you know what? I see you. I'm only willing to pay this much. And it's below what your buyer has said. And your buyer is like, I really want you to represent me. I need this house. Can we make a deal? And you're more than willing to do so. Well, what we found over and over again is we need to make sure this isn't memorialized in writing. You want to amend only for that property you're negotiating on. And I think for a time, many of you are out there and you're just updating your current buyer broker. Well, if you do that, that's going to be for every property. And we recognize that's not going to get it done. So we've created for you, and this will be in Skyslope here very, very quickly. It's a property specific compensation amendment. That's big fancy to say, I see you, buyer. I'm going to amend for the specific property that's under contract and set to close on this date. If it doesn't close, great. We'll go back to my original amount. And that's what's so important here is we want to make sure that you have a way forward. Also, we recognize that sometimes in working with sellers, you have that exact same issue as well. And so we want to proactively be able to amend and make sure that you've got that for that specific buyers on that property, etc. This again is designed to really give you some flexibility with the client that you're working with. Now, at the end of the day, what do we know? That consistency in communication makes all the difference in the world. The expertise that you showcase by using forms and using them well makes a huge difference. And then finally, the security of when you get to closing and maybe somebody's unhappy with somebody else, there could be finger pointing. We eliminate it. You've put everything in writing. Everybody gets to inspect what they expect, and there's no question. If you have more, please check in with your state broker teams. They're going to be training on this form. And again, it's just another tool in your toolbox. Thanks, guys. We'll see you very soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Holly Mabery. Always appreciate you bringing the value and talking about what's going on and what they need to know from a brokerage operation side. You are an amazing person. I'm so glad we get to work together. All right. Next up, we have the one and only Leo Pareja talking to Adam Cothes. Take it away, Leo.
Adam, thank you for joining me. I'm super excited to share your story on the Big Agent Meeting. I love unpacking people's business. Some of you know I was a highly productive individual agent, then team leader, and so I've done both sides. I always like loving on the solo producers because it is substantially more profitable, right? Sometimes you see a top team leader have these crazy numbers, but then I ask, what is the net? What is the margin? And so, I think you've experienced both. So let's jump into it. You had an amazing 2024 with 40 plus units, around $50 million in volume, and you are crushing that this year. So take us through whatever part of the story you want to start at, and share some of that really cool journey you've had.
Yeah. I think a lot of us got into the business and read the MREA, the Red Book, from old Keller Williams. And when I was first in the business in 2014, I just wanted to make $1 million. I didn't know how. And in my area, I just assumed I'd have to have a big team. So that was my entire focus for the first 5 years of my career. I had 3 teams. I killed it 3 times. Eventually, I built it up again to 18 agents and like 6 staff. And definitely I was making like 1.6 gross, but my net was terrible. I was still determined to make it work. I was chasing Dan Beer around the country, taking all his classes and trying to figure out the ops side. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to go to 100 agents. I'm going to do it, man. I'm a grinder. They raised rates from 3% to 7%. I got punched in the face and most of my team went out and got jobs and I was left with a bunch of salaries. So long story short, 2024 last year was me just winding it down and being very focused, reducing my expenses, increasing my price points, and getting back to the boring basics. And that's what I did. I buckled down, I time blocked, I did a bunch of open houses, I bought some paid leads, I called my sphere, I did 2 client appreciation events, I launched an email newsletter, just very consistent with my CRM, all the basic stuff that I teach agents. And man, it really paid off for me.
And so what was the takeaway that you could prevent someone from having the same level of hardship? And by the way, you probably won't, because it's human experience to like, there's many things I was told not to do and I did it anyway. And then I learned my lesson and we're like, oh yeah, that's what they were talking about. But if you could talk to a younger version of yourself, what are the things that you would focus on to pass along as wisdom?
Well, I would just say for those people who are bound and determined to grow a team, ask yourself why. Teams have a purpose. Teams are great. Teams are not that profitable. The average agent who is not spending a massive amount on paid leads, like some is okay, but if you are generally running a good amount of referrals, you can have an 80%, 70% profit margin. These teams are running 15% profit margin. So by default, you got to have a big team. So ask yourself, why do I want a team? And don't force it. Like if you have abundant amount of business or some open houses, go get a couple agents to sit your open houses, or, but if you don't have the business and you have to force it through paid leads and cracking the whip and call sessions, I personally feel it's a very risky way to make money. And everybody's trying to get out of work, in my opinion. Hey, I want my nights and weekends back. I want to, you got a family. I get that. Real estate is a lot of work, and so is running a team. So think about, it's not getting out of work. You're just transferring the work. It's just a different kind of work, recruiting agents, training agents, onboarding, offboarding. If you want to just be a good producing agent, think about doing what I did. I sold my house after 2 years in real estate and moved to a nice area so that I can drive 5 minutes and do a $2.5 million open. I can walk and door knock if I want and do a great, listing appointment. So I literally just surrounded myself with a better price point in my region, and I'm focused on price point, and I'm going super deep with that.
So I'm going to say something that's controversial, but I've said it before. I think that a lot of teams are actually social clubs or, just ways of feeling included. And that is not the way to do it. I truly believe that we should obsess with our dollar productive activity and how we add value to the transaction. And, I talk about it a lot. Take your 1099 that we gave you last year and divide it by 2,080. That's what the labor department says is a full-time employment. And know what your hourly worth is, right? It could be $20, it could be $50, it could be $100, it could be $200. But you will always have a lesser productive task you could do that you should learn to delegate. And again, I highly suggest VAs and soon AI models and automation tasks. So you can focus on the most unreplaceable things you can do, right? And for you, it's probably lead gen conversion to appointment, right? And so anyone listening, first of all, it's like you become a listing agent as soon as possible, right? Statistically, a buy side takes 87 hours, a listing takes 30 hours. So you could do 3 listings for the same time it normally takes to do 1 buyer. And then secondly, if you ever go down the team building path, it is because you ran out of total hours of dollar productive activity. So I would suggest no one should start a team until you're putting seller leads in the trash. You've ran out of hours in the day and week that Adam's willing to work with sellers, right? Like, and by the way, there's versions of what a team could look like with just referrals. You don't have to feed them consistently. They don't be on your team, and you can say, hey, you can sit, my house is open, but I want a referral fee. And, you're not going to get the conversion ratios that a mega team will, but, What if you get 2 or 3 and you didn't have to babysit everybody? There's no requirement. There's no responsibility to the team members, because I think that's the part of the team leader journey that people don't appreciate. Once you start a team and you put your name on the sign and you're committing your time and energy to these people, I think what you're doing is that you're creating a responsibility that you probably didn't appreciate taking on. And that's when you have to make sure that you're prepared for that part of the journey. And then I would ask you why, right? Like, again, I know what our top 10 solo producers made, and the net is probably higher than some of our top teams.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's totally true. So I had a team where we grossed 1.6, and I looked down and I made 400 or 300, and it's like, wait a minute, this is crazy. And I was working 7 days a week. I could do the same amount of work or less in my area and make $1 million. So, that was the lesson. Is I just assumed when I started, because to be fair, when I started, my average price point was $250,000. This year, my average is $1.7 million. So I just assumed at that time there was no physical way for me to make $1 million in real estate without having a team. At the time, it was probably true. Now it's, with inflation and with just being focused and me working a nicer part of town, it's very possible. And the other thing is, there's 2 ways to get into luxury, Leo. One is to prospect your way into it. Door knocking. I've heard of people literally door knocking luxury neighborhoods, buying good leads, doing good open houses. The other way is to do middle class neighborhoods and wait for these people to get better jobs. So I actually sold a house to a guy 7 years ago for $1 million in our area, and he has since gotten a bunch of promotions, and he just bought a $4.2 million house with me. That's another way. A lot of people want to break into luxury, like, I'm going to take over the lake, I'm going to take over waterfront. It's like, you could, exactly, if you're well connected. You could prospect your way into it. You're up against a lot of good people. You could also do the boring basics, get a bunch of base hits, and let them grow into a bigger business.
Absolutely. And how do you make sure that you are spending your time on the most productive activities? And what is the best guide for someone? Our average per person productivity in the US last year was close to 5.4. You were literally 10 times that. How do you go from the average to the elite, in your opinion, as a solo producer?
Well, the number one thing that agents won't do is to time block lead generation. And if they happen to have a good business that's already generating some opportunities, they don't time block lead follow-up. So I personally am a big nerd with the CRM. I think that you need to have 2 sets of time. You need to go do some lead generation, and you need to be working through your tasks and do lead follow-up. Those of you who are killing it, but they're not doing those 2 things, they would double their business if they did those 2 things. Like, hey, their phone's ringing off the hook. They don't have to use a CRM. Their business would be much stronger if they did. So the bottom line is that you need to have some repeatable lead generation system. For me, it's always been paid leads and open houses, followed by my sphere of influence. So for 11 years now, I've been very, very prospecting based. I do great with my past clients. I do client appreciation events, newsletter. I call them, I gift them, send them. We used to do pies once a year. I send them a calendar once a year. Like, we do it all. The reality is, I got into real estate at, in some ways, a favorable time, 2014, in some ways unfavorable, because when they raised rates, all my past clients, and I was very buyer heavy, they all locked in and they haven't sold. So all of my fantastic systems and follow-up hasn't produced as many listings as you would have expected, because I don't drop the ball on these people. In fact, I have about 50 touch program throughout the year. Anniversary card on their home year anniversary. They get it all from me. So when I'm not getting the turnover because they're all locked into a 3% interest rate, what do? Well, I just keep prospecting. I just keep getting more buyers. Yes, I have plenty of listings, 20, 25 listings a year, but I'm just out taking buyers and keeping my pipeline full. So I really think that the solution that most people avoid is lead generation.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to end. I appreciate your time. Congratulations on your success. And I can't wait to see where you end up on 2025, because it looks like you're going to give everybody at the top 3 a run for their money.
All right, so there you go. Leo, Adam, awesome. Great information, something you can take and put into your business today. So I appreciate that a bunch. And by the way, we are live. We got people wandering around. It's a casino, so do what you got to do. Keep on rolling. Hey, one of the things about learning how to do this stuff is not being fazed by the stuff going on around you. You just keep on rocking and rolling, right? So with that, next up, we have Brian Ellington, Chief Learning Officer of EXP. He's going to be having conversation with the one and only Jesse Dow. I love Jesse. I got to see him in person last week, and I can't wait to hear this interview. So, Brian, take it away, brother.
Thank you so much. Hey, I recently had a chance to sit down with Jesse Dow, top agent, team leader, and also attractor for EXP. And we talked about social media, primarily YouTube, and how he uses it to generate a massive amount of business. Now, Jesse took a unique perspective, one that I hadn't heard before, about video length, making videos that are property tours anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. And the answer for him was very simple. Because that average view duration number is so important to being found on YouTube as a search engine, he really wants to drive that up through his videos. So he focuses on 30-second retention, his average view duration, and more things as well as he'll share to make sure that his videos get found and that he is the agent those folks choose to use. Enjoy. Jesse, a little bit of background about yourself before you are the Jesse Dow that we know and love. How'd you get there?
Yeah, before I got into real estate, I was actually in the brewing industry for about 20 years, and not like the brewing that most people think. I wasn't like brewing up the concoctions to make brew. I actually was in the corporate side. So primarily on the corporate sales side. So my last journey in the industry, I was actually calling on some of the largest convenience store headquarters in the country. So Chevron, 7-Eleven headquarters, so on and so forth. So that was my journey up until real estate. Okay. And so you became a real estate agent how long ago, by the way? Actually, I'm coming up on 8-year anniversary this July 2025. 8 years. And I know you've done some significant attracting to EXP. Are you still in production today? So we still have a team and we still generate sales. So we kind of built like a Zillow Flex model, essentially, where we use and leverage other teams to close our transactions. But we still do have a team out in Portland, Oregon that we own 100%. And then my wife has some business in Idaho that I manage her agent. She just generates the deals, he closes them. So kind of a little bit. And then I do some personal deals and some deals for some friends. But for the most part, it's pretty much just the agents that are closing our deals for us. Okay. And social media is what we came together to talk about. Is that the exclusive driver of your business, the biggest driver of your business, one component of your business? Yeah, I'd say it's about 90% of our business, which is video, primarily in the YouTube long form space. But yeah, I think there's definitely a lane for all social media platforms. I just think that you have to leverage and use it the right way. And depending on how much volume you want to do is what platform I think you should be focused on. Yeah. And we see that too with a lot of folks kind of picking a platform and really just trying to dominate that among the top agents that we've been interviewing for this. Is that to say though, that YouTube is really exclusively the only platform that you're posting content on? Are you also using any of the others? So with YouTube, it's primarily relocation clients. So, so as far as like making targeted content for lead generation purposes, yeah. We do also post it we do make content for Instagram and whatnot, but it's more like for brand ubiquity and saying like, when people are out searching us on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, like we still have content on all those platforms, but with real estate sales specifically, but then also for real estate attraction, we do it the same way also. So it's more of like a 360 brand play, but like I said, it's the agents are reaching out to us. Agents and consumers are reaching out to us primarily through YouTube. And I was actually just talking to someone yesterday who said they actually saw some information on Facebook, the Facebook Reels, which it's kind of interesting now. Like a lot of the Instagram stories they obviously push into Facebook, but we get way more reach outs through Facebook. And now I'm starting to see Facebook pop back up as an instrumental play in the space. And everyone's saying like, oh, I found you on Facebook. And then I went and did more research on YouTube. And actually last week I was at the Jared James training for the solo producers over 4 million or 2 weeks ago. And he was like saying, oh, if you want to learn how to do Instagram, go to YouTube. And it's funny, like everyone always pushes back to YouTube to go and learn. So that's what we always say is like long form is for education and learning. Short form is for entertainment and like, heavy consumption of social media.
Well said. And so I'm curious, when your content is being pushed over to these other channels for the brand ubiquity that you said, is it the same content just chopped up differently, or are you shooting completely different content for those platforms?
No, that's another thing. So like even in the brewing industry, before I came into real estate, we actually in 2008, we went through a massive transition with the company. We were one of the first ones into the digital and social marketing space, where we went out away 100% away from TV, radio, and billboard, and 100% into digital and social. And just imagine telling like billion-dollar companies like Walmart, you're getting out of that space, and they're like, you're nuts. Well, what we learned about was like target consumer or target marketing, and just like understanding how every marketing platform plays a different role in every person's life. So I've taken the same approach into real estate. And so for me, you can't just take the same exact video and cut it up 50 different ways and put it on every platform and think you're going to see the same result. That's why you typically see someone saying like, oh, I have a big YouTube following, but not big on Instagram, and I can't figure it out. It's because they're typically taking the same video and posting it on the same platform or different platforms. So my belief is like, you have to make the content for the platform that it's designed for, because Instagram is different than YouTube. And so like even YouTube Shorts is different than Instagram, and YouTube Shorts is almost like a lead magnet for your YouTube long form content, even though we believe you should have two separate channels. Even the Jared James training, he said the same thing. You should have two separate channels if you're going long form and short form. So I know it's a long answer to that question, but it's got to have some context. So I do believe that you should be making separate content for every platform.
Okay. And I'm curious, I'm sure there's a variety of answers, but given your goals, why YouTube? Why was that the answer for you?
So when I first started this, I started a podcast called Digital Mayor Now. And I was like, I'm going to go all in on social media. This was after building my business through cold calling, and 100% of my business was done through for sale by owner and open house. It was actually split 50-50. And it was just a burnout. And I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to target market consumers. So I went all in on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, blogs, LinkedIn, every platform. And there was like 13. I still have the pictures. And so I spent probably $100,000 freaking paying thousands of dollars for a 2-minute video. And what we started is, so through that, I also started interviewing every influencer agent in the industry at that time. So like people like Kyle Whistle, oh my gosh, some of the people are not even around anymore, but I interviewed all of them, and then all of our famous question at the end was like, well, so how many deals is your content generated? And most of them said none. And they said, I just do it for a brand play. And, Kyle's channel, which I talk about him because he's with us at EXP and he'll tell the story, but his was all about East County Eats. So it was all about food. Well, if someone buying a house isn't going to the YouTube to watch things on eating restaurants, it's typically tourism and things like that. And this is where a lot of content's gotten mixed up in the industry and why we were so successful so early. So what I noticed, and what me and my business partner actually noticed, is when we interviewed one lady, she said, yeah, I actually closed some deals from YouTube and I have some in contract. She was the first one to ever say that. So she was taking her blogs from Google and then just transcribing them onto YouTube. And so when we went and looked at the content, it was all like heavily relocated topics. So like people researching cost of living and pros and cons and things like that. And we just started doing a bunch of research as if we were relocating to a new city. And what we saw was 30,000 times a month on Google search, but 300,000 times a month on YouTube. And we were in Portland, Oregon at the time. So then we just started making content around that. But then we noticed like YouTube just started just like separating itself away from all the other platforms. And then, like I said, is like YouTube is very high top of funnel when people are, what is the sales funnel, right? Like the idea comes into their mind and then they go into research mode. Where do people go and research? Google and YouTube. So you want to learn how to do something, where do you go? You go to YouTube to watch it and learn how to do it. So the same thing happens with the relocation buyer. And we didn't know it at the time that it was going to be heavy relocation. So we tried, listing videos, open house videos. Unfortunately, no one's searching 123 Main Street.
Right.
And realistically, what happened was we were getting a pretty good amount of views. And we always say we don't sell views. We don't sell views and subscribers. We sell homes. That's our marketing agency's tagline. So we actually got someone that reached out to us through LinkedIn and said, hey, I've been watching your YouTube videos. Well, through this process, which was about a year, and actually I told the story at the EXP rally last week, is our lender's broker manager met with us and he said, hey, your guys' videos are great, but are you guys generating any deals? And we said no. And this was after a year. This was like back in 2018. And he said, you should try putting a call to action on the front side of your video and see what happens, because most of the people are falling off as they go through the video. So now we know about 70%. Our goal is to keep 70% on for the first 30 seconds. And then we'll typically keep about 30 to 33% through the end of the video, which all of our videos are between 30 and 120 minute long. And we're getting about 15-minute average view duration. So big, juicy view durations. And so what we did is we hit that call to action on the front side of that video, which we used to have this old formula, which was called hook, call to action, video, outro with the call to action again. So we did that. And all of a sudden we dropped that video and then the phone just erupted. And that was pretty much what, we ended up getting about 40 calls that day from people saying, I've been watching you on content for the last year. We didn't know you guys were real estate agents. So that's really what transitioned the whole thing.
What was the call to action?
Yeah. So we used to do the way the video used to work. And this is like I talk about our old formula because things have really changed, especially with COVID. People used to want tiny houses and be like independent. They wanted location independence where they could go anywhere, traveling, have all this freedom. Well, we used to never like really push on home tour videos, and now that's transitioned, and I'll talk about why this is important here in a second. So the video structure used to be the hook. So it'd be like, if it was a cost of living video, it'd be like, so you're thinking about relocating to Portland, Oregon. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 pros and the 5 cons of living right here in Portland, Oregon. So stay tuned. And then it went straight into the call to action, which was, hey, this is Jesse with the Real Agent Now Group located right here in Portland, Oregon. And we do videos of what it's like to eat, drink, play, and buy and sell real estate right here in Portland, Oregon. So if you're even thinking about making a move, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. We got your back when relocating to Portland, Oregon. So that was it. And then we'd go straight into the video, and then we'd hit that call to action one more time at the end. And that was the whole formula.
Okay. That's interesting. How long ago did you start on YouTube?
Yeah. So we started on YouTube actually back in it was right in early 2018.
Okay. So 2018. And just out of curiosity, how much time elapsed before you really started generating deals from it?
Yeah. So like I said, nobody had ever cracked this code, and we were just following what was being taught by, Tom Ferry's of the world. And, everybody was predicating their success on subscribers and views, like 1 million view agent, get up on stage, tell everyone how you did it. Right. So it was all this virality. And so we thought, if you went back to our channel, I could pull it up and show you all the unlisted videos now and deleted videos. I mean, it was everything: open house, listing, best sushi, 5 best restaurants, like you name it, we did it. Like everything, a day in the life of me. Like no one cares about me when they're relocating. They care about where they're moving and what's the best thing for their family. So we did videos, like I said, for like over a year and hundreds of videos before we ever closed a single deal. And the first one was just because someone was so motivated to get a hold of us. So yeah, it went on for a long time, and I spent a lot of money.
And so versus the content that you were producing then versus what you produce now, what's been the biggest change or changes that you've made?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the biggest changes, like I was talking about through COVID, is before it was all about like the location in the city, and people wanted to know about like the walkability, best, what they can get when they move to a specific area. And so like we'll even host live Zoom calls now for our channels, and because we have channels in 11 states. And so like we'll get on a Zoom and we'll be like what's the most desired content you guys are looking for from us? And a lot of them will say like, we missed the vlogs. We missed the vlogs of the area. Well, we'll make a vlog and it really won't do that well. And so now, and we used to be pretty anti-home tour because we're like, nobody cares about the houses. But when COVID hit, what we saw was everybody wanted bigger houses. They wanted more land, and they wanted some space. And everybody was being able to work from home. So we actually kind of like created this hybrid model, which we call it a hybrid home tour model, where it's a very long form home tour where we do inject a little bit of the vlog element of it too. But there is a specific structure you have to do, because like if the video is anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and 20, you better have like really good content and a lot of good hooks and a lot of good structure. And so that's primarily most of our videos now are home tours, but we're usually using like fully staged beautiful model homes.
Okay. And you're doing 30-minute to 2-hour long videos here. So
Yeah.
this is not a quick kind of MTV Cribs, a bunch of jump cuts and all in there. You're going through bit by bit. What do you think keeps people in those kinds of videos? Are you showing them the properties that they might purchase? Or are these daydream videos?
No, it's not daydream videos. And like, that's what we always say is like the ones that are the like, $10 million houses, like those are great for like people that are hanging out at 3 a.m. and probably don't have a job that can afford it. So going back to my rally cry, we sell homes, not views and subscribers, is when you're building a channel, a lot of times we get a lot of people that are like, especially if they're joining our agency program, they'll say, well, you have a channel in Houston, like you're going to be my competition. And we've always said since day one, you can go back to our videos, trainings from like 18. And I always say, look, if someone's moving to your city, just because I'm the only agent on YouTube, trust me, I'm not getting 100% of the relocation clients. They're going to go find someone else. So you start to develop your own like niche target audience. And so like a good example is my wife here in the Boise market. She really focuses on acreage homes with RV bays. So almost every single one of her videos includes an RV bay or acreage. And so when she's making her content, it's all about that. And actually, like if it's an RV video, we can go back in the analytics and see that the big giant spikes and the retention rates are all happening around the garage, which is crazy.
Really?
So I would say like most of our clientele, I mean, our average price point with her team is like almost $1 million. And so when you talk about like what keeps them engaged, it's one is the structure and also like the teasers at the beginning. We call them hooks and then micro hooks. So if you're like, and then also we're reviewing the analytics every time we drop a video. And what I mean by that is it takes about 24 hours for the analytics of the video to pop up to see where like the retention graphs are and the drop-offs. So like if I see like a big drop-off, I'm like going back to see exactly what happened during that drop-off to see like why people left. So like, for example, a couple of months ago, she dropped this video where we saw like the worst drop-off ever. And I'm like, what happened with that drop-off? And so I went there and looked, and what she said at the beginning of the video was very interesting. So she had really good retention in the first 30 seconds. And then like all of a sudden I saw this massive decline. And so what she said is when she got into the kitchen, so she did the entry and walked in the house. And as soon as she hit the kitchen, she said, by the way, this builder is offering an incentive through the month of January. If you close by the end of January, they're paying $30,000, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's just like anything else in life. She didn't give enough debits in there to get her withdrawal. And she hadn't so basically she was putting her value on the front side of that video of what she wanted, which were reach outs. Also after January, that video is dead. But two, everyone was just like, there was no value given yet. And she was hitting them with that to me, that's almost like a soft close. And people didn't like that. And then they just skipped right past it. So we learned a lesson, changed it up on that, didn't never do that again. So it's really agent to agent and everything's variable, but there is a very, generic outline that we use for most channels and most of our clients as well to help them generate content. Because really, and especially in YouTube world, there's a couple of traffic sources that pushes your content. Search is like the SEO. And this is like what we used to really focus on. So when you talk about also what has changed, it's really where do we want our views coming from? Do we want it coming from high targeted SEO search, which that's what everyone would say yes to, and so does ChatGPT. However, if you ask them what is more relevant, search or browse, which browse is actually YouTube's algorithm, browse is way more powerful because YouTube's algorithm is way more powerful knowing what people actually want versus targeting what people are actually searching. And that's where you get those big, long, juicy average view durations. Because what's everyone's goal in life on social media? To keep your attention longer. So if they know that my video keeps you on for 12 minutes and my competition keeps them on for 8 minutes, guess whose video they're going to put in front of everyone else first? Mine. So you'll see like on browse, which is the algorithm and so was suggested, you'll see the average view durations are way higher, but the views are 10 times greater. So if you focus 100% on average view duration, you will naturally get way more views in general.
When you're out there looking at your channel, you mentioned your metrics before.
Yep.
What do you learn from looking at your metrics? What are like the last couple of like big insights that you had studying those?
Yeah. So really, I always say like I learned from like what is like kind of like the buzz of everything going on right now. So the one thing I would say is like once you're like an established creator, because YouTube does this thing where it will rank your latest video against your last 10 videos. So it'll say like this video is ranked number 3 out of your last 10 as far as viewership goes. And so like when you're on the come up and you're like starting to build this thing, it's always 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10. And then it starts slowing down 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 8 out of 10. So if you're consistently dropping really good content over and over and over, you're going to start to have it where it's like 8 or 9 out of 10s almost every single time, because it's just, you're competing with yourself at that point. So for me, as I always tell everyone, is like, don't let the video you drop today determine the success of your future. Like, don't let it be the measuring stick of your content, because that will kill yourself. Also, comparing yourself against every other agent in the market. I see this I get these agents are like, I saw so-and-so did this video. I saw so-and-so do that video. And I'm like, a lot of these agents are buying views and subscribers. And we don't even know if they're doing any business. So let's just focus on what works. So I'm constantly looking at average view duration. I'm looking at the first 30 second retention rate. I'm looking at, even like on YouTube, like they've kind of helped you a little bit by on the click-through rate. It'll have a little indicator on the click-through rate. And it'll say this video is being viewed more, or this video is being viewed less, or click-through less. It's not as popular. But the one thing it's not telling you, it's going to a broader audience. So the reach is getting up significantly higher. So naturally, if you have a bigger reach, you're going to have a lower click-through rate. So there's like different bracketed plays for how many views, how many views versus how many impressions and things like that. It's just like, unless you're a data nerd like me, it's not going to be very fun. So I just say, focus on the average view duration. That's all you need to focus on. And if you're starting a brand new channel, you can't make these big giant videos, because you kind of have to build up to that, because when YouTube's not going to trust you yet either. They want trusted partners and know that you're consistent. So we actually only do 1 video a week. That's it. And so 1 video a week is all you really need. And so you just want to be consistent and keep doing the same thing. So realistically, if I was starting a brand new channel today, I would start with those 2 videos I just said, pros and cons, cost of living, make them about 12 minutes of fully edited time. And then I would just get going on that. And then you can start building up as you go.
Okay. And this kind of makes sense now when you talk about the duration of your video being 30 minutes to 2 hours. And then you talk about that average view duration metric being so important to being found on YouTube by others as well. Is that part of the reason why you make them so long?
Well, one is like, okay, so if you make an 8-minute video, I know with 100% certainty that the average view duration will never be 50%. So it'll say, let's just say your 8-minute video, you're going to get 4-minute average view duration. And that's like if you're striking gold. If I make a 30-minute video, my likeliness of hitting 8-minute average view duration is significant. It's 100% greater than you making an 8-minute video, because you can't go longer than what you made it for. So naturally, you're going to probably get like on a 30-minute video, if you're really bad, you're probably going to get like 4-minute. Well, 50% of that guy's 8-minute video. Now you're on the same playing field essentially. So it takes a little bit of practice to get up to that long. And also, like you said, is like, how do you make a 30-minute video? Like, that's a long time. And I just tell agents, be very slow and very boring, and it'll happen. Just trust me. And it might seem boring to you, but here's the other thing. And this is what trips up a lot of agents. They assume that the same viewer is watching every piece of content from day 1 to day 900. Like, you're cycling through your audience consistently because people go through the buying process, right? So I'm like, don't be afraid to say the same thing over and over and over, because that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Any last tips before I let you go for folks who are just getting into YouTube about how to be successful as a real estate agent?
Yeah, it's like anything else in life. Just find the people doing it at the highest level that can actually prove that they're doing it. And then with what I mean by that is like closing contents and generating leads. That's it. Actually, at the end of the day, it's about generating leads from the content. Like, that's how you put the proof in the pudding. And then just, go all in on it. And if you're also one of those agents that just is not good at technology, it's like, and you're like, everyone's telling you to do video, but you're beating yourself up because you can't. Like, I've worked with so many agents is like, it's not, I'll just be honest, it's not for everyone. However, if I'm going to start out and I'm going to practice, it's like the Instagrams and the TikToks are really the world to start, because here's the thing I love about TikTok more than all the other platforms is you can post the same video 15 times on TikTok and they don't care. If you post the same video 15 times on YouTube, guess what they're going to do? They're going to give you a strike if you post 2 of the same videos. So TikTok's a really good training ground for creating content, in my opinion.
Okay. I like that. All right. Thank you, man, for doing this. We really appreciate it. This has been great.
Absolutely.
All right, so there you go. Brian Ellington, Jesse Dow. Jesse Dow is always bringing the fire. This guy is super sharp. And by the way, his tech skills are off the chart. He and I are talking about doing some more back-end stuff for some of my tech stuff. Super great guy and always willing to be helpful. So Jesse, I appreciate that. And Brian, thanks for the great interview, of course. All right, so there you go. There is the show for May 9th. My name is Russ Laggan, and before you go, we got to check this QR code here. Pop the QR code. Let us know. Give us a rating on our NPS survey. Let us know how we did. If you like our show on a scale of 1 to 10, go ahead and give us a scale rating and give us a 10 if you loved what we did. We're going to be making some shifts to keep making this show the best show we can for you. So with that said, drop in a number and let us know how we did. And there you go. That's the show for this week, May 9. I hope your business is going to go to the next level. Selling season is on us, particularly in the north. So take your business to the next level, build relationships. Stay tuned for iConversations coming up next.